All right. We have ourselves two goaltender dilemmas for both of these teams. And wait a minute, I know what you're thinking. Lego, what are you talking about? There's no goaltender dilemma for the Vancouver Canucks. Well, you know what I've been doing as a career for the past 5 years? I've been stirring the pot, making controversial, opinionated YouTube videos here, and that is exactly what we're going to keep on doing because of some of the extra pieces of news. Now, before we dive into the Vancouver side of things, let's go into the more actual quote-unquote goaltender controversy, dilemma, whatever you want to call it, with the Edmonton Oilers. Because after last night's Calvin Pickard 3-2 regulation loss, I almost said win, loss in game number 5 against the Vancouver Canucks, you had a bunch of different media, from Oilers local radio media to some of the more mainstream, regular national media, bringing up the idea as to whether or not the Edmonton Oilers go back to their roots. And they go back to the main guy, who is supposed to be their starter for this 2024 postseason run, in Stuart Skinner for Game 6. And the main idea as to why they would do this, you know, it makes sense when you lay it out, but then when you think about some other ideas, it completely contradicts the idea of putting Skinner back in. Essentially, the main argument that I've been hearing from a ton of Oilers media and commenters is that for the Edmonton Oilers, their backs are against the wall. They're playing a game at home. If they lose, they're done. That's 23-24 wrapped up and sealed in a box, tightly gift-wrapped and kissed on the top with a bow on it. That is it. So with this in mind, do you go back to the guy that was supposed to be your main guy and you ride or die with him down into the grave? If you lose, you lose. At least you lost with your main guys back in the lineup. There's a certain level of respect being given out to Stuart Skinner here when you say, hey, you gotta go back to Skinner. Calvin Pickard lost. Doesn't matter how good he looked in the loss. Point is, he lost. So now it's Skinner's turn to get that crease back, to prove that he is worth riding with, and to prove that he was the guy to be put in this spot in the first place. Because you got here with Skinner, he helped you through LA, he went on an absolute tear when the Oilers were winning all those games back to back 17 times. And now this is an opportunity for him to really hone that crease in what could be the last Edmonton Oilers game of the season. And if he wins, okay, great. You're back in Vancouver. It's Game 7. Skinner is back up to form. He's feeling good about himself. Everybody's happy, right? But the thing is, Stuart Skinner has been so unbelievably bad throughout this series that the rationale of paying your dues and giving the respect to the guy that's deserved it throughout the season, etc., like, it makes sense, but at the same time, does Stuart Skinner give the Edmonton Oilers the best chance to win game number 6 at home? I would honestly say no. Because as we had talked about earlier in yesterday's video, Calvin Pickard was alright. Like, he was good, in fact. He definitely wasn't the reason the Oilers lost game number 5. He was probably the best player on the Oilers, if not for Matthias Janmark, Foegele, Connor Brown, some of that fourth line for Edmonton. They were doing really well. But everybody else, I mean, McDavid no-showed. You had Evan Bouchard with the terrible turnover. You had Leon Draisaitl, who scored a point. I mean, good for Draisaitl, but he wasn't as effective as he normally is. It was Calvin Pickard who was the best Oiler last night. And he made some incredible saves to keep the team in it. I mean, the point-blank toe save on Nils Höglander, which I initially thought was just Höglander whiffing it off the post. Nah, it was Calvin Pickard who got a toe on it. That was a crazy save. It kept the Oilers in, and the only goals that beat him, I mean, Carson Soucy could just say that Pickard lost sight of the puck because there were too many bodies, and it was Corey Perry that played it out to Soucy in the first place. Yeah, okay, that makes sense to me. Second goal, Evan Bouchard turnover in front of his own net. It's Phil DiGiuseppe on the spinorama backhander. Okay, not really the goalie's fault. You would like to see the goalie get more set for that play, but that's really not on him. And then the third goal. What do you want to do? It goes off a skate, off a post, and it's right to JT Miller with the open net. That is not Calvin Pickard's fault at all. The Oilers lost yesterday, but Calvin Pickard gave them a chance to win. A lot of people are saying, yeah, no, if it was Stuart Skinner in net, Oilers would have lost 7-2, 8-2. Like, Skinner has been so bad in this series that you have to start wondering, do you triumph the quote-unquote respect that you give to the top guy on your team and instead say, okay, sorry, like, we're going with Pickard. He's better than you. This could be our last game, yes, but we're gonna do it with the best chance to win in net rather than the guy who got us here in the first place in Stuart Skinner. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's been a really interesting past few days because a lot of analysts and media are saying that Skinner should get the start. It's very weird, but at the same time, you know, if it is Skinner, as a Canucks fan, I kind of would like that. But aside from the Oilers, we do have ourselves another goaltender dilemma. And I'm going to say it right here. I did not think we would be talking about this, and I did not think that I would be making this kind of a conclusion. Because if you go over to Frank Saravalli, this is what he said earlier this afternoon on Sakaris and Price. Everything is very positive when it comes to Thatcher Demko. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him at this team's morning skate on Saturday. If there is a Game 7, there's a very real possibility we see Thatcher Demko. And that, okay, look, we're not going to jump the gun. We're not going to assume there's going to be a Game 7. I think there probably will be. But I mean, if there is no Game 6 win here for Vancouver and Game 7 does come out, Thatcher Demko, let's assume he's healthy. What is the play? Because honestly, Artur Silovs has been good enough, more than good enough, to be the guy for the Vancouver Canucks in this series. He can tango, he can keep up with McDavid and Draisaitl, except when they get on breakaways and beautiful one-timers. But for the most part, Silovs has been what the Canucks needed. A reliable, calm goalie who makes the saves he needs to make. Sure, the goals that get by him, he can knock those off to the side. But for the most part, Silovs has been good enough that even if you have yourselves Thatcher Demko, who is available for a potential Game 7, depending on whether or not Silovs loses Game 6 in a terrible fashion, or if he just loses like normal, like we had seen him lose some of these other games, last-second goals, whatever, like, I think with the way Edmonton has had to deal with Artur Silovs, in a potential Game 7, I honestly don't disagree with the idea of keeping him in and having Thatcher Demko as the backup. Because hear me out, Thatcher Demko, I mean, he's missed so much time the past few weeks here. He's played a very limited stint in between two lower body knee injuries. Same knee, different part of the knee. He had two separate injuries on that area. He's coming off of a really long break, and you can debate, okay, do you want to say he's going to be cold heading into a series like this? Heading into a Game 7? Or do you want to say he's going to be well rested? At the same time, it might take a little bit of movement to get the gears flowing and to get that blood pumping once again, so do you want to push it? Or do you go with a guy like Artur Silovs, who has been stable pretty much the entire time? He has a few fluke games once in a while where he's not really making the saves he should have, but oddly enough, the Canucks actually find a way to win those games, which is kind of great. So that's the dilemma on this front. If Thatcher Demko is available, do you go with him right away? Or do you say, no, it's arty party until the party dies down? Until Artur Silovs has a terrible dud game where he lets in 5 goals on, let's say, 25 shots and the goals all look terrible, the arty party rolls on. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do the Vancouver Canucks do when Thatcher Demko comes back, and if he's back for Game 7? You know what the Canucks can do to avoid all this? Just win tomorrow. Win Game 6, and then have the entire thing start out against Dallas in Game 1 for the next series. Be like, okay, we'll reevaluate once everything goes down. If Artur Silovs has a crap game in Game 1 against Dallas, then Thatcher Demko plays Game 2, and then the rest is history. Or do you go immediately with Thatcher to Snatcher? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. That is, of course, assuming the Canucks win. I mean, we'll see what happens, but for now, that's the conversation. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about the Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard conversation? Because believe me, it's been all over Edmonton media. I've been consuming so much Oilers radio the past few days just because I want to see what the opposing side is saying about the Canucks. But either way, thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.